Hello, everybody, and welcome in to GDT Live, presented by Game Day Tarps. This is episode 2. Colton Davies Daeden Comeau along with you today. And today we've got a special one. James Tubb is going to be returning here and joining us in a couple of minutes. The reporter for the Medicine Hat Tigers. He was just at the Memorial Cup with the team, covering them from coast to coast, from end to end. This guy did a wonderful job, and we're lucky to have him on the show here in a few minutes joining us. But first, Colton, how you been? You're muted, buddy. You're muted. Back to back. Happened to you and happened to me.
There you go. I fixed it. I'm good. We got the Stanley Cup final tonight, so I'm excited. Finally got some hockey back. But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to talking to James.
Yeah, yesterday I saw something that kind of sparked my eye in the CHL world. It's the interleague games between the Q and the O. Sudbury and Rouyn-Noranda, and then Gatineau and Ottawa, one that we've seen before. But the Sudbury and Rouyn-Noranda one, that one's kind of new. It's interesting. I like it.
I think it's cool. I think it's cool that there's going to be some interleague games. It kind of works out well for them since those clubs are a little bit closer to one another. But I think it's really neat that we're going to be able to see some of that. I think for the WHL, though, it's a little bit more difficult just due to travel. It's a little harder to get out east, right, for a game like that, just for one game. But between the OHL and QMJHL, from the couple people I talked to, like, we're going to probably see some more of that here with some more experimenting with those types of interleague games. But what do you kind of like make of that? Because I know you're a big Q guy. Like, kind of, it's cool, right? Like,
yeah, definitely. I think the one thing that if you're a big junior hockey fan, the one thing you kind of hope for all season is the Memorial Cup, because you get to see how your league stacks up against the other two.
Yeah.
And well, this is kind of going to be a mid-season version of that, not a mid-season version of the Memorial Cup, but a mid-season version of your league versus another league. And in that case, it would be the Q and the O. And I think the two teams, Sudbury and Rouyn-Noranda, especially this past season, would have matched up extremely well. And I think going forward, this is something that the Q should and the O should definitely stick to.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be cool. I think fans are gonna love it. It's different, right? It's something new that the CHL is trying to dabble into a little bit. And I don't really know how the whole, like, I'm assuming if you win and you still get your 2 points and everything, I don't think there's like a point discretion there or anything. Like, it's not like these are exhibition games. These are like regular season games, right? So I'm excited to see how it unfolds, because it should, like, those games should sell out in theory.
Yeah, 100%. I think they will for sure. Now let's talk about the CHL and the schedule releases that came out today. And I want to know how you think about the Blazers schedule, because I know you were talking a bit yesterday on the podcast about how you're going to get to see a healthy Tisha Ginla and the Kelowna Rockets come in and do some damage to the Blazers, if not have some, competitive games.
Yeah, it's going to be good. The Blazers open up their season on the 20th. It's against Spokane, and I'm damn sure it's against Spokane. Honestly, I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure I just read it was against Spokane. But it's going to be good. Like, I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see Penticton come in. I think that's the big one that a lot of people are kind of excited for, is you get to see the new WHL team come in and play. And that's obviously, that's Penticton, right? So it's going to be neat to see the V's kind of go through their BC division and, make their debuts across the league. I'm excited for Landon DuPont to come through Kamloops and play a bunch, obviously with Everett. One thing I noted, and I mean, we're going to get to this with James eventually too, is I saw in the schedule released by the WHL, they didn't include Gavin McKenna's name at all in the press release. They included Landon DuPont's name and a couple other players, but not McKenna's. So I'm kind of interested by that. But yeah, man, I think this season's going to be exciting. It's new, right? Like, that's the biggest thing, is this season is going to be new to a lot of people because of what has happened with the NCAA commitments and the influx of, USHL, BCHL players, etc. So I'm excited.
Well, yeah, if you're a CHL fan, you've got a lot to be excited for this year, whether it's or there's just a lot of rumblings, whether it's the NCAA stuff, whether it's the one extra player added to the roster per import draft, and stuff like that. It's going to change up the league a little bit. Some expansion teams coming in. We've got Newfoundland over in the queue. You guys have got Penticton, so I think it'll be great. But I guess without further ado, let's welcome in James Tubb here, fellas. Medicine Hat Tigers reporter. James, how's it going, buddy?
Fellas, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're excited to talk to you, man. First, let's go back to the Memorial Cup. Like, you were just there. How was Rimouski?
A lot of fun. Rimouski, the city as a whole was really, really good and great hosts. Very welcoming. Even the French-English balance was a fun thing to navigate. But no, the city as a whole was great, and the games were phenomenal. I mean, it's the premier event of Canadian junior hockey, and I think this year's tournament, especially the round robin, really lived up to that.
I got a question for you, James. I brought this up to the boys the other day. Andrew Basha, I didn't know he spoke fluent French. Did you know he spoke fluent French?
I did, only because I want to say it was 2 years ago, Daeden. He was had an interview lined up with CBC, and he got handed the phone, and he was doing it. It was not usual doing it where we'd usually do media, and he had the phone to his ear, and he goes, "This is in French." And like, he wasn't fully prepared. He was able to do it in French, but it just a heads up so you can like remember some things. And he was kind of excited for that, and has family back east, so he was kind of close to home with them, and he was the go-to translator for the team. And every interview or every scrum, if Basha was there, we would do it in English, and then you would hear en français, and then they would go in French.
Oh, nice. It's definitely a perk being bilingual, especially in a place like that.
Yeah, no, it was well liked by everyone there.
Speaking of Basha, what did you make of his? He had a bit of a problem this year with his injuries, and then finally made his big return. Didn't look like he skipped a beat at all in that WHL final. How did you make of his play, and what did you see out of Basha?
I think throughout the WHL finals against Spokane and the Memorial Cup, it was the Andrew Basha we hadn't seen since he suffered the injury. Really, it was January 2024. He got stepped on, and it lingered and didn't get fixed, and then eventually got fixed with surgery. So it was a return, and I think maybe it took a little into the finals to get conditioning, frankly, because he missed so much time, and that's not on him. That's just how that was. But he worked his way back, and no, it was really, really great to see for Basha just to find that level. And I think the way he played in his return, the dominance with the puck, physicality, his play away from the puck, I think he's put himself in a spot he's not going to play junior hockey next year, and and that's a good step for him.
That's what I wanted to ask was, do you think he makes that jump to the Wranglers, and or does he kind of like, he's eligible to come back for a 20-year-old or an overage season, right?
Yeah, I do think he'll make the jump to the Wranglers, maybe get a taste with the Flames at some point, but he's a Wrangler, so it's the same boat with like Tanner Molendyke's going to go play for the Milwaukee Admirals, if not the Nashville Predators. He'll join overage or Oasis Weisblatt there. I think Hunter St. Martin's going to play for the Charlotte Checkers, who are in the Calder Cup finals now. So the Tigers are going to lose some big pieces after this season, and that's what happens, I guess, when you win a championship.
Speaking of losing big pieces, and I know you don't want to probably dive into this, but we have to get your opinion on it because you're embedded with the team a little bit. But what is the deal with the McKenna stuff? Like, I think we all know kind of what's the ball is rolling here and what's going to happen. There's Jeff Merrick has reported there's 3 schools, but there's a part of me, James, that thinks he's going to just come back.
You're not the only one, Colton. That was the vibe I got at the Memorial Cup. Was a lot of people. Let me rephrase that. I had a couple people come up to me and say, in my gut, I think he stays. I think he stays in the WHL, stays in the CHL, and gets drafted as a Medicine Hat Tiger. Because all year, all we've heard is the rumors. And you know what? I don't.
Yeah.
I get it. I understand it. There's the financial tie. There's getting to work out and play against guys a couple years older, a little closer to pro. I can't get over the fact that they would play 30 games when you could play 68 here. He's barely going to be able to play any NCAA games because he's going to play at the World Juniors. So that's what kind of I don't get that. It's more of a pro schedule in the WHL. there's the Yukon Showcase this fall, this spring, it's not spring. I'm in baseball mode right now. What a preseason. They're going to face the Kelowna Rockets in his hometown of Whitehorse, Yukon. So that's, all of that to say, there is no answer right now. Cam Robinson with Elite Prospects wrote about it 2 days ago, that it sounds like McKenna is going to go visit some schools in July. It's kind of all we know right now. And it's, that I don't think anyone has an answer to this. And it's the biggest question right now in junior hockey. And, it's kind of annoying as a journalist to not have an answer to that, but it's we'll find out this summer, I guess.
Aside from all of that, how was watching Gavin McKenna this season? Like, I could only imagine, like, he didn't get to come through Kamloops this year. Of course, we went out there, and I didn't make the trip out there. I really wanted to, but man, it must be a treat just to watch him all the time.
It's so fun. There's a couple reasons I like to go to practices almost every day. You see stuff. If a guy gets hurt, you kind of know about it. The reason I get up at 7:30 every morning, and that's not early, don't get me wrong. I know that a lot of people wake up early for our work, but work late, wake up early, is to see Gavin McKenna and what the special stuff that he can do. And I've never seen a player be more dangerous with his back to the goalie than Gavin McKenna. Like, he turns his back to the goalie, he's either going to sling it to someone to score, or he's just going to do that move we saw against Prince Albert, where he looked like Allen Iverson out there and then scored shorthanded. He's inevitable, undeniable, whatever adjective you want to use to describe him. He is, he's better than Connor Bedard. And like, that was the peak of junior hockey for the last couple of years. It's now Gavin McKenna. He's working his way towards the peaks of, a Connor McDavid and a Sidney Crosby.
We talked a little bit about this yesterday, and, Medicine Hat obviously has a star-studded roster, but London was able to just find something that was able to shut them down. What do you think, in your mind, was the thing that was stopping the Medicine Hat scorers from putting pucks in the back of the net in the first 2 periods of that final game?
I think it was like the experience of London. They had lost the year before to Saginaw in the finals, the dying seconds. They had to wear that all summer, and they returned, a majority of the same group. And I think that that hunger that put in them all year just kind of came out there in the finals. And obviously the Tigers beating them in the round robin didn't help. It's like the MJ. They took it personally, and they showed in the finals from London. They also did a good job of, the Tigers, if they got it up the middle, they didn't get great chances. There were a lot of blocked shots and a lot of shots wide too. And Austin Elliott, you got to give him credit, former Saskatoon Blade. He played really well in the Memorial Cup. I mean, legendary all season, but he kept playing good in the Memorial Cup. So I think it was just an older team, just held on, and they did what they were there to do, from the start of the season.
Yeah, I think there was definitely some eyes on McKenna in that top line. I saw McKenna had 12.8 zone entries per game, so that guy was carrying the puck every rush up the ice. And I think London just found the way to stop that. But something that kind of impressed me was Medicine Hat's defensive scoring. Bryce Pickford especially. What can you tell me about Bryce Pickford in his game?
It's amazing the steps Bryce Pickford took this season. He came into the year, I want to say it was 3 goals he had with Seattle, and finished with 20. And for him, and then just in the regular season, and for him, it was just, he worked all summer in his shot, and that's kind of his mantra, is just working hard. He's one of the Tigers' hardest working guy in the gym, and they don't just say that because they want to. He is, and he put in a lot of steps. He was their go-to on both ends of the puck. Him and Tanner Molendyk, that's not bad company to be in, to be relied upon in the dying seconds of games. And I think he's worked his way into, being a higher draft pick than originally thought, maybe a 3rd round, 4th rounder for a kid like that. That's huge, right? After not going undrafted last year, but he just worked really hard, and he's going to be a big part of their success next year.
Speaking of working hard, I really enjoyed this piece from you about Josh Van Mulligan. I thought that was really well done. Really cool to see kind of the full circle for him, starting as a stick boy and then bringing the WHL championship back. Can you just kind of tell our viewers a little bit about Josh and what his story is?
Yeah, Josh Van, a great kid here in Medicine Hat. And, as you mentioned, came up as a stick boy for, I believe it was 3 seasons. One was during the Tigers' second round loss to the Lethbridge Hurricanes I think it was second round loss in Game 7 double overtime. So he had that heartbreak, right? All these players he grew up working with get eliminated, and then played minor hockey throughout his years in Medicine Hat. Gets drafted, plays at Saha, wins a championship with Saha, the Circle K Classic, now formerly the Max Championship, and is just embodied what it means to be Medicine Hat. Plays ball hockey here in the summer, went to school here. He is a Medicine Hat kid through and through. So he's really rose through the ranks, didn't make the team in his 16-year-old season, and has been a mainstay for the last 3 years. And he'll be a big part of the team next year, but just a great kid and, really reliable defensively. Offense maybe isn't it's not what he's there for, honestly. He's a defensive defenseman. He can move the puck, and he's had some NHL interest and hopefully some more, but no, he's a great kid, and he's what you want for a local ambassador.
Yeah, I love that. Obviously, Kamloops knows that about local kids with Stankoven and the rest that have all been here. And speaking of another local kid who plays for Medicine Hat, who's from Kamloops, Matthew Ward. Just kind of I thought he looked great out there. He's obviously off to NCAA next year. What do you kind of make of Matt Ward?
He looked so good in the playoffs, and especially in the finals and the Memorial Cup. That was a guy, he was made for those moments. And he didn't really get that opportunity as a Swift Current Bronco, coming up through his career. And they had a couple looks at the playoffs, but not as much as this year. And then gets traded to Medicine Hat. And I'll tell you, fellas, shocked that day, that draft day. They'd already traded for Bryce Pickford, Jonas Wu, moved out to Captain Tyler McKenzie. And then I got the text, and I was like, there's no way. And it was just like, oil and water, him and Oasis Weisblatt, how they worked together, and they made it work. Let me rephrase that. They were really good friends this season. It was just two guys that had, if Brad Marchand signs with the Leafs this fall, it's the same thing. So it was really special to see. Yes. A lot of chirps had to get maybe walked back. So, for Ward, the fans loved him. They got to know him, and he's just a great kid and really worked hard and, didn't have the success in the first half of the season he wanted. And he took that personally going into Christmas. He knew what he was brought in to do, and he wasn't doing that. So he came back, scored when the Tigers were shorthanded. He played a big part of that role and, was a centerman for most of the season, won draws, big penalty killer. And now he's going to NCAA. He put his hand up and realized, I still have to get stronger. So instead of trying to get a pro deal or something, let me go NCAA. And he's going to do that and go back to school. And, he's of all the people to see win a championship, it was really good to see him get that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great for his development too, to go to Northern Michigan and go and kind of play there a little bit, play a few years, see where he kind of gets his development going. And I think that's great for them. Those are the types of players where the NCAA is going to absolutely just like benefit, right? You go there, you can kind of work a few more years and get to that next level.
For sure. And it's, I think it's the plan the CHL likes too, is the graduating players go, or maybe you're 19 turning 20. So it follows that trend we saw at the time.
Is there anybody on Medicine Hat that you don't think is getting enough love by the media?
Oh boy, that means I'm not giving them enough love.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I got you. I'm just joking. Oasis Weisblatt, the captain, got enough to love that he signed a 3-year deal with Milwaukee Admirals. Just a great kid. And, he was there when the Tigers won just 11 games in 21-22, and he helped change the culture from that losing to, a championship. So that's really big. Along those same lines, Hunter St. Martin, gets drafted. Caden McCann as a centerman, he's a role player, and he played his role really well this year. As a bottom six, helped the young line with the Liam and Marcus Ruck, get acclimated to the league before they ran their own line with the Schaefer Gordon Carroll. But, Caden McCann, we'll see, he has some draft interest going into June here. And, when you're thinking of a guy that's going to win a face-off late, is a bottom six, third line guy that just provides stability and wins puck battles, it's Caden McCann. And that that's kind of the guy that stands out to me. Yeah.
I love that. Day, you're muted.
And I get a tip jar for that.
Yeah, man, I have to. We're up to 75 cents now. James, the Memorial Cup, they released their All-Star team roster a few days ago. Two of the Medicine Hat Tigers are on it, Gavin McKenna and Tanner Molendijk. But I want to ask you, who would be on your all-star team if you were the one making it?
I'll be honest, I don't know if I would change anything. I think Tanner Molendijk was really good. So was Sam Dickinson, the other defenseman. And then the forwards, Gavin McKenna, Denver Barkey, Easton Cowan, all three had really good tournaments. And I think Austin Elliott was the goaltender, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know how much more I would change on that. Maybe Hunter St. Martin gets worked in, but I mean, it's hard to take him off of, or take one of Easton Cowan, who led the tournament in scoring, and Denver Barkey, who also led the tournament in scoring, and just was phenomenal throughout. So I'll have to tip hats to the CHL on that one.
All right. Well, let's throw it back to that championship game just for a second. We're with 5 minutes and 30 seconds left in the third, and Gavin McKenna scores the second goal for the Medicine Hat Tigers. If that doesn't get called back, do you think that sparks a push late for the Tigers? Because we know they can score in bunches.
Oh, I thought the game was going to get tied. I was ready for it. I was like, I think I might have to go down to ice level here and get some photos.
Yeah.
I really, really thought just the look in his eye, because the camera got him perfectly. And I was like, oh, that guy's on. Like, he's ready to do this on his own. And the team around him was going. And then it just the wind got sucked out of them there when it got called back. And I still don't know how to feel about the call. A high stick seconds before, didn't really see if it hit his stick or not directly. And it gets called back. That's fine. It's their job, and they got it. That's the call they made. But yeah, I did think if that one counted, it was going to be a 4-4 game and maybe see some overtime.
I thought that too.
100%.
So one player I've grown to really love throughout this WHL season, and especially throughout the Memorial Cup, is Ryder Ritchie. And what he's been able to do, he's deceptive. He shows up in big game moments. I keep repeating myself about him, but he's just arguably one of my favorite players in the world right now. There's a lot of stuff out there about him too. We're not going to dabble into that, obviously. But what did you make of him? I mean, 4 goals in the Memorial Cup, kind of led the team. What did you make of Ritchie's performance out there?
Yeah, he saved his best for the right time of year, whether that was playoffs in the Memorial Cup. And not that he wasn't playing good in the regular season. I think it just took him some time to adjust, frankly.
Yeah.
In Prince Albert, where he got drafted by the Wild, he was the guy. Everyone else was complimentary. He had to lead the Raiders, and he did a really good job. And then, you come to the Medicine Hat, and you don't have to be the guy. You don't even have to be the second guy, third guy. You could be the fourth option on this team. And, that took some time. Obviously, he took a skate to the face, like just right there, barely missed his eye in October. That took some time to recover and then mentally recover from that, having to play with the bubble, but just what the injury that was. So it was, I think that took some time for him to work out, and then he just found it in the second half. And I think he loves the big game. He wants to be the guy. He wants to have that moment. So he really did that in the playoffs. And then in the Memorial Cup, he found another level. And I'm surprised he hasn't really signed with Prince Albert yet, or not Prince Albert, pardon me, Minnesota yet. Yeah. I don't know, as you mentioned, there's some NCAA rumors around him, so that'll affect things. But, at a time in the season, people were questioning the trade for sending Tomas Mercic to Prince Albert, because Mercic was playing really well as the number one guy. We all expected that, got his chances. I think Ryder Ritchie kind of quieted that down and showed, what, slow start. There's a reason I was traded for, and, part of that was winning a championship.
Do you think did the trade shock you?
A little bit. It had been rumored for a long time that Ritchie had wanted out of Prince Albert, and that the Tigers had interest. Him and Gavin McKenna have long been friends, right? So it made sense. They played together at RHA Kelowna. There was some chemistry. So I maybe didn't expect it to be Mercic, but when it kind of came together, it made some sense, and it's paid off. But it was a little bit of shock at the time.
Yeah. I want to go back a little bit just to the WHL final, playing against Spokane. Was there at all a time where you maybe thought that this series might not go the way you guys were anticipating, just because of the Chris Stahl and Catton connection and what Shea Van Olm was doing, and just how Spokane was just kind of lighting it up through that Western Conference?
Tigers win game 1. that was some confidence. They had a day off. And then Spokane came out for game 2 and won. It was 6-2. They took game 2. I
Yeah.
was like, this is, and the Tigers just did not look good. They couldn't generate. I thought Spokane did a really good job of making the adjustments. And then they go to Spokane for 3 games. And I'm like, I don't know if hopefully the Tigers come back so I can cover another game. I didn't get to go up for games 3 and 4. And then the Tigers just dominated. And, they made counter adjustments and really didn't give Spokane and that top line much room. And I think that was a big credit, to the Tigers for limiting that top line because they were really, really dynamic. Crystal, Van Omen, Catton, as you mentioned. So, and we saw it in game 5 when they almost tied it up there late. And, so I was able to make it down for game 5, luckily, and see them win the championship. But no, there was times, Colton, definitely. I was like, this series is either going to go really long or it's going to end in Spokane and not in a good way.
I was ready. I had my credentials ready to come to games like the final games 6 and 7. If that was going to end up being a thing, I was going to fly out to Medicine Hat and come and watch that because I thought for sure it would go to that after that second game. And then everything kind of seemed to dissipate and Medicine Hat figured it out, of course. But one other guy that I just want to touch on, I know we're kind of going through the whole roster here, but this guy's really important. And this story is extremely important. I've lost people in my life who are extremely close to me as well. So I kind of understand this from a different standpoint. But Harrison Menigan and the way the team banded around for him was just beautiful, in my opinion. What kind of happened there? Like, obviously loses his father, but the whole team just came together.
Yeah, and just for the backstory, I guess for people that wouldn't know, in game 68, Tigers are in Calgary, having to win to clinch the Eastern Conference Championship. They do that, and a big part of that is Harrison plays it unbelievable in net, and his family's there, and then find out post game that his father Derek passed away at the game, and it hit the team really hard, and they did band around it. The night they were leaving Calgary, supposed to be celebrating this championship, right, clinching first in the East. They're praying instead for their teammate and his family, and just hoping that they can somehow make it through all of this. And I think it did a lot to help the team stick together. And you would never, ever wish this on anyone to help band a team. But, they were able to use that. And then game 1, Menigan pitches a shutout against Swift Current. And I've never seen an audience or a crowd like that and what they did for him. And it is going to be, saw them win a championship. That's great. That is going to be my favorite game I've ever covered, was that. And the emotions of that and the players selling out more than they ever have to preserve that shutout for him in that moment, and just to see how they treated Harrison, and they did it all for Harrison, and that was a big thing throughout the playoffs. Was they would say do it for Harry. Everyone had a sticker on the back of their helmet was Dad 35. The coaches had the same thing, and it was almost fairy tale, right? Storybook, whatever you want to say it. Like Disney couldn't have wrote a better script than this for them. And even when he missed 2 games because he was away with family, Jordan Switzer, the backup, stood in, and he did it for Harry. And it was just, there was teammates that flew to South Surrey to be with him during the funeral, and just it was the ultimate team showing for the Tigers, a brotherhood that they talked about all season. And just for Harrison, I don't know how anyone could do that. I know I certainly, I couldn't have covered a series if my father passed away before. How could I sit there? And for him to lock in well enough to play that well, it's the Tampa Bay Lightning got a good kid in him, and they signed him for a reason here.
I was just about to say before Daeden kind of goes in here, I was just going to say, and for Tampa Bay to sign him, I think that was beautiful. Like, whether they knew, like, it's not even like a pity thing. Like, he did so, and pardon my French, but he was so fucking good this year that he deserved that contract. And so I think that everything that has happened to him, and then for all of that to win the championship and sign, I think that is awesome for him. But obviously, condolences to his family and everything like that.
Yeah, I think Andrew Basha could tell you that wasn't French, but yeah, let's talk about Menigan for a second. You said he just got picked up by the Tampa Bay Lightning, just got signed, and you brought up a couple of days ago, Colton, on the podcast, how Tampa likes to recycle these good goaltenders, but I think Menigan is one of those goaltenders that's good enough to make a name and kind of stay. So, James, how long do you think it is until we see Menigan suiting up for either the AHL or in Tampa?
it's hard, right? Because goalies sometimes take longer than others. They'll probably, I would assume, and I'm just basing this off of, Tigers had a goaltender, Garen Bjorklund was a Washington Capitals pick. They signed him, and, he played, I think it was 2 years, just finished his second full year in the ECHL, has a chance at the AHL, played a couple games, but could play there next year. So I think it'll take a couple years of ECHL, just to get used to the fully pro schedule, the organization and what they want maybe from Harrison if there's any changes. So, 2-3 years, maybe gets into the AHL and then, jumps into the NHL. Would I also be shocked if he did it sooner? Absolutely not. Just with his, his fight to win and how much he wants to win and prove himself and, frankly, and do it for his dad. And that was a big part of something he mentioned after winning was showing that all the effort and everything his dad did for him, isn't going to go to waste.
Yeah, I definitely think it was a great performance by him, and he definitely made a name for himself going into the next season and the seasons to come. I think he'll have an eye on him. For someone from the East Coast that hadn't really heard of Harrison Menigan before the WHL finals, I'm big on him now.
100%.
Absolutely.
And I got to commend TSN. They did a great job of picking that up and, talking about it very respectfully. And everyone, it was the story of the first round of the CHL playoffs, I think, and for good reason.
It was too. And I think TSN, you got to shout out them just for picking up the CHL finals each year. It gives maybe hockey fans that don't tune into the CHL as much, or just fans that aren't as big on junior hockey, something else to watch, because at the time you have NHL playoffs, IHF Worlds, and CHL hockey, which I think is amazing. But it gives you eyes on these prospects that you might not be able to see throughout the season because, like guys like Harrison Menigan on the East Coast, I don't get to watch him. I don't stay up till 11:30 every night to watch WHL games. But I think it's great that TSN does stuff like this.
Now you have Victory Plus for the WHL. It's all free,
dude.
Yes.
So good. And even for
I
like
the
Americans, like I know, 100%. But like even for the Americans, like we got Big Willie Styles in the chat here, and he's from Minnesota, and he just got into the Memorial Cup, like he knew nothing about it type thing, and he learns about it through the NHL Network. And then I think the Stanley Cup final, having that big wait in between, there were so many people tuning into that game on Sunday because there was no hockey on, so it kind of worked out for TSN and for them. But man, James, speaking of the Memorial Cup and like speaking of all this, and we've talked about the NCAA stuff, I want to get your opinion. I've covered a Memorial Cup now. You've covered a Memorial Cup. Do you think that this is going to be the same tournament again moving forward, with the lackluster of maybe superstar talent not being there due to NCAA stuff? Or do you feel like we might see more talent and more of these quote unquote super teams?
I'm not too concerned about the CHL. And, obviously the Cole Reshney, Keaton Verhoff commitments is a big blow to the WHL and the Victoria Royals. I kind of still think that people are going to, like, there's some people that just won't want to move too, is a thing, right? Mm-hmm. And, I don't know how easy it is to get a student visa right now with the, the geopolitical landscape in the US, and I'm still confident, Colton, that it's going to remain the same. If anything, maybe they add another team is kind of the rumor, right? They like the idea of putting a USHL team in there. Not a fan of that in my opinion, but I think it's going to take some time. Maybe there'll be some years where we might not see the super teams like London. I think that'll maybe get dissuaded, right? It won't be as older of teams, but I still think it's going to be a high caliber tournament.
Now we talked about bringing another team into it. Colton, you and I talked about this the other day on the podcast. It's all hypothetical. It would all be hypothetical as of yet. But for the CHL to forgo the host team, bring in a USHL team for that fourth team, and then centralize the Memorial Cup. That's what Colton brought up, all hypothetical. I was against it 100%.
I'm against it too.
Hate the idea. But what do you think about that? No,
it's the Canadian Hockey League. Let it be the CHL's premier event and leave it at that. I don't mind the idea of centralizing it maybe, but it is kind of like, it would be a shame for people not to see Rimouski like they got to do the last 12 days, right? So communities like that, and Kelowna is going to put on a great event next year because they kind of, that was the promise. So we'll see how that shakes out. But yeah, I think you got to kind of keep it as it is.
Somebody, Big Willie Styles, just put in our chat, NCAA teams playing junior hockey teams. Now, see, that wouldn't work either, just due to the age difference. Like there'd be 25-year-olds playing against 18-year-olds. So that wouldn't really work. But the USHL thing is an idea, but I'm against it too, personally. I don't
I
want to
think
see
maybe
that.
like a game or like maybe an all-star team thing where like you take an all-star CHL team and send it down to play a USHL team for a game or something.
They
Or
did that, didn't we?
Yeah, the Prospects Challenge is the new thing every
Right,
year in
okay.
November. Yeah,
And the
So
CHL won. So
handedly. So we'll see how this year goes, right? Like that'll be different. That'll be in November. It's going to be hosted in the WHL. So we don't know where that is yet. It's not that far away, but
No.
we'll see. Yeah.
John says these Canadian boys are afraid the USHL is going to win the Mem Cup.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Hey, well, Saginaw won it already, so that's all right. That's already an American team. Well, man, I think that does it for us. You were awesome. Appreciate you coming on. I guess the one last question I kind of have for you is, what was your favorite moment of the Memorial Cup?
That's tough. And again, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. Of the Memorial Cup, I think how off the ice, just how great the community was. And I kind of touched on it, but Rimouski did a really, really good job hosting, and they made everyone feel welcome. And the CHL staff was great as well. But it was great, and I really, really enjoyed it. Long days. I mean, it's hard to complain about covering a hockey tournament. Like, ooh,
Yeah.
But no, it was a lot of fun, and on the ice, just kind of non-Tigers, because we talked a lot about the Tigers. I really, really liked how the Moncton Wildcats banded around, their team and head coach Gardner McDougall and his son Taylor. And, after the Moncton lost to the Tigers, Gardner revealed that Taylor's father-in-law, Pat Buckley, had passed away that day, and they were playing.
Yeah.
That's hard to play after that. So for them to win against Rimouski, that was really special. And how the Rimouski crowd welcomed Gardner, which they were the only coaching staff to walk across the ice after every flood. That's just like this slickest ice in the world. So good for them. But every time the crowd after that Gardner revealed that news, they welcomed him and they gave him love, and that was really, really special to me to get to watch.
I mean, I love that. And I get you on the whole long days thing. Like, I remember having like practices and then media days, and then it's like 10 o'clock in the morning, and then you got 1:30 media, and then you got 3 o'clock media, and then 4 o'clock game, or you get ready. It's just crazy, right? Like 12 to 15-hour days at the rink. But like you said, like you're kind of in your glory for that 10 days, right? That 2 weeks, 10 days. You're just like, it's just hockey, 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 and that's all you kind of think about. And it's fun, but after you get home, you're like, holy shit, I'm exhausted.
Yeah, I the last 3 days I got sick, and I'm just getting through it now. So, but it wore on me, and there was the press coaches press conference, and that was at 3 o'clock. That was after every team did their minor media, talking to every team and all the players. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, right? This is what we all want to do. So that was fun, but I slept pretty good over the tournament. That's the easiest way to say it.
Love that.
Well, James, Colton, I think that wraps it up. James, thank you again for hopping on. This was awesome. Everybody, go tune in to Reporter Tubb on Twitter. If you guys like some baseball, the Medicine Hat Mavs are in season right now. Reporter Tubb is covering them. So go hit them up. Go give them a follow and go subscribe to the channel. And we'll be back on tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern. James, once again, thanks, man.
Thanks, fellas. Appreciate it.
Colton, how's it been, man? It's been a great episode. Game one tonight.
Game one tonight, man. That's gonna be interesting. What do you make of that? You got a prediction for it before we sign off here?
Game one in Edmonton. Let's go 3-2 Oilers. Connor McDavid, game winner. Why not?
There you go. Good stuff. I like that. I'm gonna go 4-1 Oilers. So I think they kind of get the ball rolling on home ice right away. But
Okay.
we'll see.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah. Tomorrow, we're going to try and line up a guest for tomorrow. We'll put out a tweet and kind of let you know who's going to come on. But other than that, I think that wraps up our show for today. Hey, Day?
Yeah, I guess so. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll be back on tomorrow, 3 p.m. Atlantic time, 2 p.m. Eastern. Sorry I said Atlantic. Riley gave me shit for saying Atlantic time, but that's where I live. But, yeah, fellas, we'll be back on tomorrow. We'll have a good one. Peace out.